In previous videos, I demonstrated Quantum Eraser's total lack of honesty, his blatant lies, like for example how he reamed Austin and said, "We never claimed that water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit at 1 atmosphere. We say heat causes water to boil." Literally reamed Austin and with a blatant lie. And nobody on his panel called him out. And I've got more evidence of blatant lies, not misinterpretations, not just being wrong, but what he taught y'all was backed up with bold-faced lies. Now, if you are one of QE's supporters or you're part of the FED panel and you don't respond to him, if you don't question him, that makes you either a coward or dishonest. Now, to me, Quantum Eraser destroyed Nathan's show, which used to be great. And he did it with half-truths, which later turned into blatant lies, and I'm going to point them out. So at first, he showed us the difference between science and pseudoscience and reminded us all about the scientific method. And we held Glober's feet to the fire, who came in claiming bullshit, and we applauded him for that. So here's where the deception started. For reasons unknown at the time, he held on to quantum mechanics. And he told us in presentation after presentation that the debate is not whether light is a particle or a wave, that it's been scientifically proven through experimentation that light is a particle. So I find out later that he thinks quantum mechanics proves God, which to me means that he's got a lack of faith in the first place. But either way, it explains why he didn't want to let go of quantum mechanics. So now, since science has proven God, now he's put his faith into quantum mechanics. So now, the years of work that flat earthers have put in to use interferometry and gyroscopes and such to disprove the globe threaten his religion. So now the Michelson-Morley threaten his religion. So then I see Michelson-Morley in one of his recent show titles, and I'm thinking just maybe he's going to discuss the interferometry measurements and the globe-destroying implications of those measurements. But basically it's him describing how Michelson-Morley experiment is not an experiment for 2 hours, and how you can't formulate a valid hypothesis. But I'm going to show you it's easy to formulate a valid hypothesis for the Michelson-Morley experiment, and how the quantum eraser experiment has no valid hypothesis. So he's not going to be able to squirm out of this one, so he'll probably ignore it. But the hypothesis is so simple that it'd be hilarious listening to him to try and say how it's not valid. But anyway, the dependent variable or natural phenomenon is the apparent motion of the stars. The independent variable, we can use an observer or a detector or both and say that the motion of the observer causes the apparent motion of the stars. So the hypothesis is simply this: the motion of a detector or observer causes the apparent motion of the stars. The null hypothesis is that the motion of the detector or observer does not cause the apparent motion in stars. And we can test it 7 ways from Sunday. Now, the MMX and similar experiments are a treasure chest for flat Earth. Just the simple fact that they didn't write it up properly is clues and evidence towards their obvious horseshittery. So let's get into this. First, I'm going to show how he blatantly lied over and over, year after year, about what science has proven. And then we're going to hold his religion, or the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, to his own scrutiny and apply his own rules and see if there's a valid hypothesis.
They're not waves, they're particles. Shown to you about 100 years ago with the photoelectric effect and Compton scattering.
What's the hypothesis for the photoelectric effect?
Say again?
What's the hypothesis for Compton
It's
scattering?
not an experiment. It's not an experiment.
And I'm skipping a lot of stuff here. Einstein then performed the photoelectric effect. That experiment that showed photons were particles.
It's not an experiment.
And Compton scattering. This experiment right here. It was.
It's not an experiment.
But, you know, after those experiments by Einstein and Compton and a few others, they said, well, wait a second.
It's not an experiment.
Back to the presentation. So to refute photons as particles, you must falsify every single experiment. Every single experiment will light over the past 250 years, specifically the photoelectric effect. The photoelectric effect. Compton scattering. No Compton scattering.
He received it for this, the photoelectric effect, and it's well deserved. All right, so credit where credit is due. And Compton scattering, this experiment right here, it was the death knell.
It's not an experiment.
But all of this sounds very theoretical, and there seems to be a lot of claims coming out what seems to be
It's not
theories.
theoretical. These are validated experiments.
No, but I'm just asking you, have you ever seen one of these experiments yourself?
No, I've never been in on a delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, no.
Okay.
So this is Slick James Johnson asking him, has he ever seen the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment? Because he acts like he has, and he implies that he's been a part of it, but he admits he's never seen it. Okay, and earlier was me asking him, what's the hypothesis for the photoelectric effect and Compton scattering? And he says that it's not an experiment. They're not experiments. So I expect somebody from his panel or the FED panel to simply ask him, why did he claim they were experiments year after year for so long? So this question is directly for Nathan Oakley. Nathan, now that we know that there's no experiments or science proving light as a particle, doesn't this reopen the ether debate and the particle debate? Can we have an honest discussion now, Nathan? And one other thing, where it picks back up, it's Chocolate asking him why he chose the name Quantum Eraser.
You chose that?
No, I did it because through my travels in my life, I've been around a lot of experiments and really cool experiments. And this one, when I first come by it, I said, wait a second. So
I've never been in on a delayed choice quantum eraser experiment.
I said, wait a second. So I literally took about 2 months and just, 15 hours a day going through each and every aspect of the experiment because I thought it was batshit insane myself. Right? So I had to get down in the midst of it.
I've never been in on a delayed choice quantum eraser experiment.
And reconcile it. It had to go through my crucible, my personal crucible.
And we are trying to point out the gospel of their materialism church. And what we are modern heretics.
Yeah, well, this is religion. This is what religion does, right?
Absolutely.
Right? We appeal without demonstration to evidence that supports our position just because we say it. I'm sorry. Yeah. I live in Missouri now. You have to show me.
Have you ever seen one of these experiments yourself?
No.
You have to show me.
Yet another contradiction. So he's from Missouri. You got to show him, unless it's what he believes in, and he'll put his whole life's faith in the other man's hands. But I tell you, it's hard to make a video when somebody has so many holes in their stories and they lie so much with so many contradictions and straw men. You just get overwhelmed. You don't even know where to start. But this video is getting kind of long, and it is important that I want everybody to see how the hypothesis in the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment holds up through his rules and his strict definition of science. So I'm going to make a part 2. But so thanks for watching.